What's up, everybody? Welcome to SmashPad's.com, and this is the Best of 2020 series. We'll be starting 2021 by looking back at our staff's top 10 favorite games of 2020. First, and number 10 on our list, is The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4. Released late this fall on the PS4 console, Trails of Cold Steel 4 is tabbed as the end of the saga that got its start in 2013. Trails of Cold Steel 4 is the final game in a self-contained arc in the bigger Trails series that began in Trails in the Sky, which released in North America in 2011. The entire series now spans 9 games, 2 of which have not come to the West, which has more than sparked an effort, especially by us, to get this series more attention. Nihon Falcom, best perhaps known for its East series, has slowly become the most consistent and respected developers of JRPG games, and is definitely right up there with Atlas, and the Trails series has become its crown jewel. Every single one of the 9 games in this series is connected, so while it's still possible to kick things off with Trails of Cold Steel, I'd personally advise you to get started with Trails in the Sky. The problem is, unless you have a PC, it's a little difficult. The Trails in the Sky games are only available on the PSP or Vita, while the Trails of Cold Steel games are a little more accessible as they've been ported to the PS4 from the PS3, except they're starting to become a little hard to find now. Now, if you do have a PC, every Trails game except for the aforementioned 2 from the Crossbell series and Trails of Cold Steel 4 are available on the platform and are easy recommendations. That said, these are meaty RPGs, with main quests taking at least 60 hours for each game. In fact, Trails of Cold Steel 4 alone took me over 120 hours to finish. This is the longest RPG that I've ever played. So this is actually an early part of the game, in Act 1. And even though it's Act 1, I think this is around 10 hours in. So again, it's a really, really meaty RPG. And for the sake of spoilers, I don't want to go over too much about what's going on. If you've never played any Trails of Cold Steel games, you surely do not want to start here. Again, the first 2 games were ported to the PS4, so that would probably be the easiest way to get it. And then they're also available on Steam if you want to go ahead and get caught up. This game is pretty much a direct continuation from the events of Part 3, and there's really a lot here. So, when you're watching this and you're confused about all the characters being shown, as you can see, these are all people that you're introduced to throughout the course of the series. And as I mentioned earlier, there were 2 games that didn't come out in the West, both of which were on PSP. And because they were on PSP, we don't expect them to be released here anytime soon. But there is some hope, because in Japan, we just saw ports of those PSP games get released on the PS4. And yeah, as for getting them here, it's really going to be up to whoever can translate it. So whether it be Xseed, which would be fantastic, or NIS America, which would be a little tough. Like they had the rights to Trails of Cold Steel 3 and Trails of Cold Steel 4. And I think they have Hajimari no Kisuke coming out next year. Of course, not confirmed yet, but they're, even though this is the last part of this current arc, there is still a whole lot of story left that's pretty much untold, and the only way to access them would be, if you're somebody that understands Japanese and can go ahead and read it. Otherwise, there are some localizations made by fans that you can go ahead and download. And yeah, we actually got some recent news out of Falcom that the games were localized for, I believe, Korea or China. I'm not exactly sure, but those games are going to release on Steam next year. In fact, they're going to be available in Steam in America. Problem is, they won't be translated, so it's tough to say there. So anyway, let's go ahead and give you a look at the battle system. So right here we have our current party of 4, and the battle system has pretty much remained unchanged since Trails in the Sky back in 2011. And the funny thing about these games is that there's just a whole lot of stuff to customize here, and it's easy at the same time. So if you notice with the characters on the right side, you see CP 200. Those points are accumulated throughout battle. So when you get to the max of 200, you're able to use some of your ultimate moves, which I'm using right now. And one of the strategies I have to pretty much cheese this is to before before I get ready for a boss, or as I get ready for a boss, I go ahead and take part in any battles that I see, so I can go ahead and fill that gauge up, and I can use these ultimate moves right away. These are called S breaks, and if you saw earlier, I just like held L1 and then just went ahead and chose from there. And this boss fight is just about to end. So here's Yuna about to use her S break, and this will pretty much just end the battle. The Trails games aren't really known, or at least in this generation, not really known to be the best of quality as far as the visual department, but the actual character art and the design is fantastic. Like so these characters just look awesome. But you know, when you're exploring the regular world, it kind of looks like a PS3 game. So they're kind of behind in that regard, which is unfortunate because this is, you know, this is coming towards the tail end of the PS4. In fact, I'm actually recording this footage from a PS5, so I'm actually seeing better load times and stuff like that. But I really wish like their next game would have an updated engine. It doesn't, but they've actually just announced a new game in the series coming out, I believe, next year in Japan. So we'll see. Anyway, as far as the story goes, that dude in the blue hair, Gilbert, who we just defeated, was actually one of the mainstay villains in the Trails in the Sky series. And he's really just there for comic relief. He's never been anybody exceedingly difficult. And right now, we're getting interrupted by the Jaegers. Jaegers are pretty much just like assassins in this world. And Rutger, the older one with the gray hair, is actually the quote-unquote father of Fee, who's a member of the original Class 7. You'll see in her a little bit. So just to provide a little bit more background on some of the characters you see, the pink-haired girl, her name is Yuna Crawford. She made her debut in Trails of Cold Steel 3 as one of Reen's students. And what's significant about her is that she's from the town of Crossbell, which is the setting for the two games that didn't come out, Trails to Azure and Trails from Zero. I don't want to go too much into the details of Crossbell, but like her presence in the game really leads to a lot of fun situations regarding the game's world building. Like if you were to talk about how great the Trails series is, I guarantee everybody will talk about its world building. As I stated, every single one of these games is connected, so that pretty much makes Trails of Cold Steel 4 sort of an Avengers Endgame to the series. There are plenty of characters. Those that are totally invested in the series knows who everybody is, and the game does a pretty good job of introducing them again. And you know, for a lot of people, it's the first time that they're being seen in HD or in 3D, so it's a pretty interesting thing. So as you can see in this battle, I pretty much killed everybody really quickly, just because of those special moves that I have. And it's funny that I actually use this this section in the game because it actually allows us to showcase a simple boss battle, a harder boss battle, and now one of our mech battles. So when you go into mech mode, it's a little bit more strategic. You're only allowed a certain number of mechs at a time, and here with this, you actually have to attack specific weak points. So as you can see here, with each menu, there's a star number. The more number of stars is where they're more vulnerable. You'll also see question marks, which means that we've never attacked them in that form before. But once you've seen that they have at least 4 stars, then when you hit them, it'll do more damage, and you'll be able to pile on even more. And then you also have support characters that'll provide you with buffs or even more attacks. So as we can see, this this mech is holding his sword back and getting prepared to attack. So that would change its weak point. And when you use the magic move that you see here, um, the weak point is pretty much all over his body. So it allows us to, cheese it a little bit. So I'm using a reflect move here to avoid damage, but except he attacked my other mech, which made me vulnerable. Alright, so I should be able to hit him with a follow-up attack. It'll do more damage. And if you see on his health bar, there's a little exclamation mark there. That's pretty much where I have to get him. I'm not going to kill him because he's a really integral part in the story. And that'll happen like hours and hours from now. So it's just a way for the game to really introduce these characters to show how important they'll be later. Anyway, yeah, I just talked about Una Crawford. The dude with the white hair, his name is Kurt Vander. He's the brother of Mueller Vander, one of the more respected families in the game, and they've always served as guardians to the royal family of Erebonia. They're known for their dual-wielding swords technique, the Vander style. The girl with white hair here is actually a puppet. I won't go into much detail about that, but she's pretty robotic. She came from the intelligence division, so she did a lot of like various assassinations or things as a spy to pretty much help the Empire do what they needed to do. And she was actually a villain in the first 2 games. And when Reen, the main character in the first 2 games, becomes a teacher in Part 3, Altina, the white-haired girl, eventually becomes a part of his class. So she's one of Reen's students. And her character development from Part 1 all the way to now in Part 4 has been really tremendous. She's easily one of the more likable characters in the game. And then the spiky blonde-haired dude, his name is Ash Carbide. There isn't much for me to say about this guy because it's really pivotal to the story, so I won't go into it too much. But he's an orphan, and yeah, he's probably one of the better fighters in the game too. Like when it came to the point where I had to select party members, he was almost always in my party. He just has a lot of great attacks. His stats are good, things like that. So yeah, this is Trails of Cold Steel 4. So again, if you're somebody who's already into the series, this is definitely a must-get. There's so much good fan service here, and like the story is just fantastic. A bunch of people have complained about the voice acting because like some people had to change, but you know, it's been a rough year with COVID, so I'd imagine that's been a part of the situation. My real criticism is the fact that not every line is voiced, and you saw that at the beginning of this video. And yeah, they're being rescued by members of the original Class 7, so that's pretty much it. Number 10 was Trails of Cold Steel 4. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you use this as an opportunity to get into the series yourself. So yeah, let's get on to number 9. Thanks, guys.